Welcome to Ascending with Venus Castleberg, a space where we explore the journey of spiritual awakening, expanding your consciousness and raising your frequency to create a whole new world. We'll dive into the possibilities that open up when you choose to follow the whispers and trust your inner knowing. Each episode is designed to guide you in expanding your awareness, tuning into your intuition, and discovering the magic of your life every day. We'll talk about living aligned with your soul's purpose, going beyond limitations, and creating a life and a world worth celebrating. You are here to embrace who you truly are and step into the infinite potential that's waiting for you. Let's ascend together. And now, here is your host, Venus Castleberg.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching now and in the future. This is actually a pre-recorded one because I'm going to be traveling in another country this week. I'll be in Prague, and but today wanted to talk about the grief of expansion. So this is a topic that we started to touch on last week for those of you who watched, but we were really talking about more like kind of like acknowledging maybe relationships that you've outgrown, or it could be positions, or those like acknowledging what we've outgrown and giving yourself permission to maybe leave, maybe do something different, leave some relationships behind. And if you've watched my stuff at all, you kind of know that I'm used to change. I'm used to moving. I'm used to changing circles. I'm used to, changing focuses in my career. I've had a lot of different kind of career choices over the years. 25 years ago, started with massage and hypnotherapy and got into like nutrition. And so I've done a lot of things. I've owned a construction company. I've owned an insurance company. So I've definitely been around the block and done a lot of different things. And I particularly like new beginnings. I like change. But what we don't often talk about is the grief, right? The sadness that maybe comes from change. And I know that can be more difficult because we do like the people that we're working with, or we do. A great example is I've been married a few times, but my second marriage, he, wonderful man, still to this day, we're still friends. We, not super in contact anymore, but he's just a really genuine, good-hearted, nice, kind man. And everybody thought we'd be together forever. We were together for 7 years and then chose to go our separate ways. While we both knew that that was best for both of us, I wouldn't say it was easy. He was my best friend, he was just a great person to have in my life. And so ending that relationship, we knew that, we weren't meant to be married anymore and to be in a romantic relationship, because we ultimately were just best friends. And it's like, well, if you're best friends and you're married, sometimes for some people that's enough, but for other people it's not, right? So for us, it wasn't enough. But there was still some pretty strong grief that went with that, right? Like, why didn't it work out? He's such a good guy. We're both good people. Like we never argued, there was never, and please no, I do not believe that people who don't argue have it better than people who do argue. I've seen both sides work. So that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying for me and for our relationship, it worked. And we didn't really have a lot of disagreements. But there also wasn't a lot of like fire energy or passion, or right? It's because that energy is required too. And that ending just made me look at it and just be like, wow, I was really sad for a moment, for a little while, right? I let myself be sad for a little while because there is grief. When anything ends, when somebody dies in your life, their physical body dies, right? So, of course, you can also have just their physical body doesn't need to die, so they just an end, right? Or a great example too for many people out there is how many of you have been fired from a job, right? I was fired from a job once. I was 19 and a handful. But what happened? Like, it really forced me to change the direction of my entire life. I was in with a not good crowd at that time. I had a boyfriend that was dealing drugs, and you know, and so getting fired from the job, suddenly I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna actually have the money for rent if I don't get another job. And then just kind of this like looking at like, okay, I don't think that this path or this trajectory is the best one for me. So fast forward many, many years later, I mean, I've studied 20 different modalities, right? And I've done time doing each of them. And so, but there's been time where it's just like, okay, not doing that anymore. Or I used to be an Access Conscious certified facilitator, and I'm not an Access Conscious certified facilitator anymore. And I've personally, even in just the last year, have gone through different waves of grief and letting go and change, because I had a vision or an idea of where my life was going and what it was going to look like, and all the things, right? So there's a couple different levels of grief, right? There's the grief of an expectation that doesn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. There's the grief of something ending, of just being like, okay, that just ended. Maybe like I said, somebody died or you got fired, right? There's an ending, right? And then there's the grief of losing who you thought you were based on what you were doing, right? So many of you know I've had a psychic university, and I still have a psychic university. But right now I can feel that things are changing, and that there's a new focus and a new direction that I'm going to focus my energy on. It doesn't mean I don't still do psychic university. I will, but it's not the forefront. It's not the main thing, right? It's not the only thing. And for all of last year, that was pretty much the only thing. And I had little pieces that I did, but they all were part of Psychic University. And then, as I've mentioned before, somewhere around December 15th, when those programs last year completed, I kind of had this like, they're done, and not really knowing what I wanted to create next. So I've had a few years of just Psychic University and having that be a focus, and then it just kind of got quiet. And I shared this last week as well, but I'll just remind you that sometimes that's also when my spiritual team stepped back, and it seemed like they were here but not here, right? Not as sometimes they can be really kind of very present, and I just noticed they were really quiet, and I was like, what is that? And then learning that I was at a crossroads and I had some choices to make, and so they were backing up so that I could make those choices on my own, right? And learn to trust myself in that. And I share this because sometimes grief is clear, like you're clear that you're grieving, you've lost a loved one, they've died, and you're crying, right? Other times grief can be very subtle. it can feel um, like a whisper. It's like there's just something kind of under the surface that's just not quite right. I'll use that word in this 10 seconds. But it's really more about just going, okay, asking a question. You're aware of an energy and you're like, what is this? Well, you might be crying for what you think is no reason. But then when you look at it, you're like, oh, I guess I am sad that, what I thought I was going to do for like the next 20 years didn't turn into that. Or I am sad that that person is no longer in my life and I thought they were really good friends and now they're not here anymore. Right. But that willingness to be like, okay, I don't feel that great. I'm sad. Like, let yourself feel the feelings of grief, whatever they are, because resistance, remember, resistance holds things in place. So don't resist the grief. Don't resist the sadness. Just be like, okay, right now I'm just feeling sad. Maybe you know why, maybe you don't know why. And I can even look back at some of the things that I went through last year in particular, and how I did feel sad and kind of lost and at times. And I look at that now and I'm like, oh, but there were so many things in my life coming to an end. Lots of friendships that I thought were, lifelong friendships ended last year. I had, like I said, my programs kind of came to a completion. And at least, those rounds of again, I think I'll probably do Psychic University again in the future. I just don't have it. It's not running right now. But, and who knows, right? Maybe not. Maybe it won't. And then just like ending this, not being a CF for Access Consciousness, like that definitely hit me hard, because I definitely thought that was going to be something that I did forever, right? I love the tools of Access Consciousness. And it was just so clear that there were other things that I was meant to go create. And I wasn't necessarily meant to just be a CF and do somebody else's program, right? But go and create my own programs and go and create, right? But it was like I was being asked to expand, to get greater than I had ever been before. And I had to let go of the things that no longer were in that same frequency. You'll hear a lot of people talk about third, fourth, fifth dimensions and so on. It's part of what we talk about sometimes here on Ascending, is like we are all ascending, we're all evolving, we are all growing, right? We're all expanding. But as you stretch into that expansion, as you move into a new frequency or a new vibration of the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, you start to move into a different vibrational frequency. The lower frequencies, you don't match anymore, right? Like you might have actually been somebody who, has had very fiery, argumentative relationships. I've definitely had relationships that were like that, right? And then I realized, okay, that didn't really work for me. And so I chose a different frequency, right? So, but those expansions, those times of, I don't know, testing your merit a little bit, growing beyond the people that you're around, or growing past even something as intimate as something you created, whether it be a child or a book or a program. Like everything that you create in life, believe it or not, is meant to be created and then become a legacy. And becoming a legacy, what that means is it's meant to take on a flight of its own, to have a life of its own, right? A book, you're the one that writes it, But once you've written it and then it's been published, it now has a life of its own. It's now out there finding the people that it wants to touch and reach. And you might be somebody who's actively in that, but that's not usually the case. Usually you publish it, you announce it, and then now the book is pulling people to it and helping people find it on its own, right? Many people, I had some friends that I knew, they actually were the founders of the $1 Million Facebook group. And they created this amazing coaching program and like poured their hearts and souls in it. And then they were like, okay, now it has a life of its own. You all have grown from this program, and now you're out creating your own programs, doing your own thing, creating your own groups. It's still a great book if any of you are curious about how to use Facebook groups as a marketing tool. But what I loved about them was that when they knew that it was time to change, they pivoted and created something else, right? So that's also like life. Like life is you're meant to change. Like look back at your life at 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Maybe you're not that old, maybe 10 years ago, right? But like look back even 10, 20, 30 years ago, and the person that you were then and what you knew about life then. I can use mine as an example, partying like a rock star in my 20s. That was all I knew about life and fun. That's all I knew that was fun. And I look back at that now and go, oh, I could never do that now. It would be very painful, very painful. But at that time, it was a lot of fun, right? And now what I find very fun, I've evolved, I've expanded. But man, I've lost a lot of people. I've lost people to death for sure. I've lost 3 dads to death. I've lost a grandmother. I've lost people, right? But more than that, even more than like people who've died, I have lost a lot of friends, lovers, relationships over the years. I've also moved a lot. So every time I moved, you kind of lose the friends you have. Sometimes you'll stay in touch with some of them for a little while, but long distance friendship isn't as juicy as the in-person stuff, right? But nowadays we can do a little bit more with Zoom and stuff like that. And then you have I moved a lot, so that would end a lot of things. But I love new beginnings. So I'd be like, oh, I got a new place and I get to decorate this one and I get to like figure this out. So what I've had to learn was also sometimes how to stay still and not always be moving on to the next thing. So it's a dance. Life is a dance. What are you choosing? But are you expanding in what you're choosing? This is a great lesson that I had to learn, that I actually learned from not moving. So about 6 years ago, I moved to north of Salt Lake City, and Utah. And we rented a house for the first year, and then I bought a house here. And I had always wanted to buy a house. Well, I have now lived in this house for 5 years. That's longer than I've ever lived in any one place ever. So, but I had to actually grieve the change from somebody who only had enough stuff to fit in the back of my car. I liked being free that way. So there was still expansion that was being called for me to stay still. Because how much more deeper can you go into maybe some personal work? It's what happened for me anyway. Or how much deeper can you connect with people when you stay in one place versus somebody like me who was always like, ooh, on to the next thing, on to the next relationship, on to the next place, never pausing enough to get deeper relationships, get deeper commitment to myself, get deeper connection to the land, to the home, right? So that also expanded me exponentially in a different way, right? There was a kind of a loss of who I thought I was and how I had related to myself up until that point. So, but what a gift it was. And now I'm like, okay, I can actually, I don't know how long I'll stay here, but I don't have that, like, I gotta get moving and now's, you gotta move on to the next, thing or anything like that. I don't have that. I have, what do I want to create maybe in business, or I have some new project ideas that I want to work on. So there's this almost invitation and space, I like to talk about space, for me to be able to look at things differently. But if I was moving every year, I don't know if you guys have ever moved before, but moving can be very disruptive, because not only are you like grieving and letting go of things and selling your things and giving your stuff away. That's what I would always do. And then every time I'd move, unless I was moving somewhere new in the city, I did that sometimes too. But a lot of times it was like moving to another state or going to another country for a few months, so I'd sell most everything that I owned, and then I'd have to start over wherever I go. Well, that energy can be very disruptive and doesn't give you a lot of space to expand. So for me, slowing down and not moving as often has allowed me to expand in different ways. And then as I expand and as I grow, as I change, things then fall away and there's still grief, right? And I think one of the things that I've struggled personally with the most over the years really has been relationships. I care about people. I really want, I don't know, to stay connected to people. I think we're going to be friends for a lifetime, and then those friendships go away, right? But I think you've probably all heard this before, but if you haven't, it's, people are meant to be in your life for a moment, for a span, or a lifetime, right? And so some people will be in your life for a lifetime, but a lot of people are in your life for a moment and maybe a span, right? Because we are all evolving, we're all expanding. So as we evolve and expand, if those people don't want to evolve and expand the way that you're going, or they aren't interested in the trajectory or the path that you've been on, then they will just naturally fall away. Now, I will say this, as somebody who's done it both ways, you don't, even if you know that, this particular person isn't a match for the frequency or the place that you want to go, you don't really have to do anything to force them to go. That will happen naturally. Now, if you're a business owner, I will say, if somebody's not working, it's probably a good idea to just let them go. Find something that's works better for them rather than trying to cram a square peg in a round hole. But at the same time, even if you didn't let them go, they would naturally fall away eventually anyway, because they don't match the frequency that you want to go to, or what you want to create in your business or your life, or so I know that this is not necessarily an easy thing to do, because we do get attached. We do really like our people. We really do like, there's parts of what you've been doing that you really enjoy. But is what you're doing creating the life and living that you truly desire? And if the answer is no, then I would invite you to say, okay, maybe it's time for me to let this go. So now that there's space for for me to create something else, right? So that was kind of what happened with Psychic University, was just giving it a pause, taking a step back, and we're about 5 months into taking a step back from it. I've still been working with people one-on-one and stuff like that, but just not that intense classroom setting. And now that has happened, there's something else that really is becoming clear that I do want to create. And I'm not going to share it today, but it's because it's in the very beginning, like me just looking at it and playing with it. And it's something that I've done before, but I haven't really systematized it before. So I'm putting systems in, and I'm getting downloads, and really, it's really cool. So I am excited to do that. But I know that if I hadn't given myself time to like grieve and let go of what I was doing and who I had identified myself as, all those things, that there wouldn't really be the space, the allowance for the expansion that I'm stepping into now, and to take my life and what I'm creating in my living to a whole new level. So I just wanted to come on here. I really wanted to just encourage you to just be like, it's okay to grieve if you're letting things go, and just know that this is also a new beginning. This is also, the death is not the end. It is just the end of the cycle, moving you into the new beginning of the new year. So, or not new year, but new beginning wherever you are, because we're well past the new year now. Awesome. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please comment and ask questions in the thread. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and do a visualization to kind of just take a look at the letting go process. And maybe there's some areas that you have wanted to let go of, but you haven't really been willing to look at it. So that's what we're going to look at in this visualization. We'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome forward. So one of the things I wanted to just pose here for you just for a second before we dive into the visualization part is just to pose some questions that you can be asking yourself. Like, what am I holding on to because it feels familiar, even though it doesn't feel true anymore? Where in my life do I feel tight, heavy, or boxed in? If I gave myself permission to be honest, what am I done with? And you may be surprised. It might be something that you were clear about, that you were done with, and it might be something that you didn't expect, right? Like for me, being a CF for access and then having that go away, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. But then there was no denying when it was complete how much lighter and freer I felt, right? I could just be me. I could talk about anything. Right? I have lots of modalities under my belt. So definitely being able to just honor all of them, but also be able to talk about any of them, right? So just some questions you can be asking yourself. Very cool. And then I think you might get something out of this visualization. So we're going to just ground wherever you are. Find your breath. Soften your body. Settle into this space. And we really are going to honor the past and release with love, which allows us to then open to the new. Breathe in, exhale out. Breathe in, exhale out. In last week's meditation, we stood at the crossroads and we saw that there were all these different choices we could make on the path, off the path. Today we'll look a little bit more at what is it that does desire to be let go of? What is asking to be released? Maybe it's asking to become a legacy. Maybe it's asking to have a life of its own. Maybe it's asking for a new owner. You can always sell your company, if you have one, to somebody who would like to take up the charge and do more with it, go farther with it. Breathe in, exhale out. And imagine yourself standing in a sacred clearing. A space between what was and what is coming. You don't have to have a clear knowledge of what that all is right this second. Just allow yourself to settle into this space, though. It's kind of like the pause in between words. The stillness between the new moon and the next phase. And even right now, as you focus on your breath, maybe notice the pause or the stillness in between the inhale and the exhale. And as you relax into this space, I want you to start to look around you and notice that there are symbols of the things that you have outgrown. So maybe it's a ring, or maybe it's a necklace, or maybe it's a person, or maybe it's a poster, billboard, or graphic. Maybe it's a symbol of a program. Maybe it's a representation of a space, a home, an office. Maybe even just a painting that's been on your wall for years that's you've outgrown. It doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't match your frequency. You may not even like it anymore. A painting on the wall that we keep there just because there's no other painting to put there, instead of being like, okay, this painting is done. Did you know you could do that with every object in your home? You could go around and ask, do you want to be owned by me still? And some of them you'll get no. And if you get no, then it's okay. Let's move this on to another person. Let's take it to Goodwill. Let's donate it. Let's offer it to a friend. I just want you to take a moment to just become aware of, like, what are those things, the symbols of those things, or maybe those things in general that are in your field right now that you are complete with. And you don't have to do anything with them right now. We're just becoming aware of what you have outgrown. And let each one come forward. And notice what emotions arise. Acknowledge each without needing to fix or change anything. Sometimes that is also the case, right? We are aware that we've outgrown someone or something in our life, but then we go into, well, I can fix them or change them, or I can do something different with them. And they're like, no, I was just done. It's good to move on. So you don't have to go into healer mode or fix it mode or try to change it so it'll stay. Just let yourself feel. Maybe you're sad that this person is leaving your life, or has already left your life, that you know that relationship is complete. And there's nothing else you need to do with them, with it. If it's an object in your life, maybe like I said, you could donate it, or maybe it's just like, maybe the object just wants to go in the garbage. So I'm a lover of plants. I love my plants. I talk to my plants. They thrive. I absolutely love them. And I love orchids. And I had quite a collection of orchids that had kind of stunted in growth, right? They didn't keep growing, and they didn't flower anymore. And so I just asked them, I asked each one, do you want to live? And if I got yes, then I took it to the thrift store and donated it. But if they said, no, I don't want to live, then I let them go back to the earth and become compost and become something else. But let yourself just feel it. Maybe it's sad, maybe it's excitement, maybe it's joy, maybe it's looking forward to the new. But as we release that which we're done with, we have space for the newness to come. And some relationships may change form, right? That's okay too. They may turn into a different type of relationship. Maybe they were your romantic partner, like mine was my husband, and then he became my friend. He didn't go away, he didn't die, but our relationship changed. And of course, it was sad. But really allow yourself to just take each one that you're aware of, one by one, and thank each part of your past for what it taught you, for who you became through it. And as you express gratitude, gently let them dissolve into light. Maybe a person comes forward and you thank them for being a part of your life, what they taught you, and who you became. And then with your gratitude, they dissolve into light. Maybe a thing, or an object, or a book, or a program. And just relax. Relax and feel, and let yourself just get complete with whatever that is from your past. And as you get those things complete, maybe this is something you can revisit and do a little bit more of later. Just allowing yourself to observe as you get those complete and they dissolve into light. Notice the space around you. Maybe there's something else that kind of creeps in from your past that desires to be released. That's okay. Just take a moment to be grateful for what it taught you and who you became, and then dissolve into light. And then as you notice the space around you, what does it feel like to stand here? Free from the old roles, the patterns. Maybe even notice, what does your body feel like without carrying what no longer serves? Observing, not judging. Maybe breathe that in, breathe the air around you. What do you observe? Maybe you just feel a little bit lighter in your body, a bit more ease, relaxation. Because there's really just not all that extra stuff that was no longer serving you anyway. And if something pops up to clear it, it's fine. Just be grateful for it too, and let it dissolve into light. And now I want you to invite your future self, your true self, to step forward. Maybe this is the version of you that has stepped fully into this new expansion, this new direction, this new path. And what do they look like? How do they move? How are they moving in their body? What do they know? What have they remembered that you, as you are right now, maybe have forgotten? Take a moment. I'll even pause for a little bit here to receive their energy, receive their clarity, their support. What do they want you to know? And breathe that into your body. that in some more. Maybe you notice that they're just a lot lighter. There's a lot more joy and ease in their world because they let go of all that stuff that was no longer serving them. And that lightness, breathe that lightness in. Breathe out any heaviness that you might be feeling or experiencing. Breathe out any resistance. Breathe in lightness. Breathe out resistance and contraction. And maybe they have a specific message for you as you are right now, wherever you are in this space of letting things go and stepping into the new. Just allowing yourself to be in that space, and they have something that they would like you to know right now about where you are. Maybe it's something about where you'll be, but something a little bit more specific to acknowledging where you are right now. Maybe they're telling you, you got this, you can do it, I believe in you, we did it already, it wasn't as difficult as we thought it was going to be. All the things. And just breathe that in. Let it become part of who you are. Now, what you're creating, what your future is, let that energy be here with you now. There might be some steps to take, but all in all, you can have access to that light, free, exploratory energy that your future self is showing you, that the expansion of who you are, of who you're becoming, is available right here, right now. You can be it and receive it and have it now. And then when you're ready, thank them, give them a hug. Tell them how grateful you are for them coming and spending this time with you and showing you what's possible beyond the grief, beyond the change, beyond the letting go. And then maybe slowly beginning to come back to your body. You can rub your hands together, bringing everything that you learned and all that wisdom with you. Gently coming back into your body with the space and the trust that magic is happening all around you, all the time. Slowly opening your eyes. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So I'm curious, and you can comment below when you come out of this. Like, what did you notice? What was one thing that you were ready to release? And what was one thing that you were ready to welcome? I would love to hear that. And it's okay. Grief is part of the process. It's part of the letting go, but it's part of growth. You just don't have to stay there forever. It's just grieve, and let it go, and then move on. But don't ever feel like you have to rush, right? There's no rush. You've got this. I absolutely adore you, and I look forward to seeing you live next week. Bye.